Leave the girl. It's the man I want. Take him to my laboratory.
Before I begin, I just need to say that the news has just broken that next year's Doctor Who will be shown in 2 halves. 6 episodes, then 7. 6 in the spring, in the usual slot, and 7 in the autumn. My theory as to why this is happening leads me back to what I thought would have happened in the original gap year. I think, and many other Doctor Who fans do as well, because we grew up with it, that Doctor Who belongs in the autumn. I'd be very surprised if the 2012 season, i.e. the season that takes place the same year as the Olympics, doesn't take place until the autumn. Doctor Who back in its rightful dark evenings, dark nights, high audience figures slot, the time it was meant to, and also that in time for 2013, the 50th anniversary, there's actually an episode of Doctor Who shown on the very anniversary itself, as part of its proper slot. This is actually something I don't feel too badly about. But enough about that. On with, well, this.
Scanning for audio.
Welcome, once again, to the Tin Dog Podcast. You know, I've tried recording this show a few times over the last couple of weeks, and it just hasn't happened. So here you go, with my review, oh God help us all, of Time and the Rani.
The Rani! What monstrous experiment are you dabbling in now? Stay back! The Rani's collected together the most creative minds and the most powerful matter in the universe.
She's reserved this one for you.
What is she up to? This monstrosity will give you the ability to change the order of creation.
Time and the Rani is definitely a Doctor Who story with a specific place in time. It's a Pip and Jane Baker story, so I'm guessing some alarm bells are going off already in some people's heads. It's the very first story of Sylvester McCoy's time as the favourite Time Lord. It's probably best to think of it, well, as an example of its time. I'm going to see some negative things first off, because let's face it, I'm being honest, but there are some positive things which I'm sure I'll come to eventually. The BBC clearly wanted to kill Doctor Who, but it was just slightly too popular. JNT, John Nathan Turner, the producer of the show, wanted to move on. He wanted to move on with all of his heart so that he could have something else on his CV that people took seriously. There hasn't been a TDP dealing with JNT's time at the helm of Doctor Who, and I'm sure there should be, but perhaps I should talk about that with someone else, perhaps on a different show sometime. It's a huge topic, and one that I think needs more than one voice.
I detect another mind.
Hello. Welcome to that 1963 show. So, what are we doing here? Well, each episode we'll be picking a year at random from 1963 to the present, and we'll be looking at movies, music, comics, and general pop culture from that year. Why have we called it that 1963 show? Well, we're big fans of Doctor Who, which started in
2005.
1963. So we'll also be picking a story from that year and have a quick natter about it. I'm Win, and with me are Lee.
Hi there.
And Craig.
In here.
Lee is our resident intellectual, comics guru, and all-round muso. Craig is our technical expert and Doctor Who guru. And I'm, well, basically ballast. Okay, now we're cooking with charcoal. Let's get going.
This is too easy. They're running like slide bait from a spiel box. Just open the doors, Dr. Foreman.
Hey, Doctor Who? What you talking? other mind has now left the Matrix.
Suffice to say that Colin Baker didn't want to leave, Doctor Who and GNT did, and the BBC, or rather Michael Grade, thought it was a good idea that GNT would stay, and that man would never work at the BBC while I was in charge, allegedly, to quote Michael. There's only ever been one major theory put forward as to why Colin didn't return. This can be found in the pages of Doctor Who magazine, and was put forward by John Nathan Turner's partner and location manager shortly before his death. It doesn't really matter. What matters to us, because we're reviewing the story, is that someone else had to fill the shoes, and that coat. It fell to GNT to cast the role very quickly. The powers that be, i.e. the people upstairs, wanted Ken Campbell, a very odd performer, who would have been able to pull off the evil side of the Doctor, as well as a more mischievous side, quite well. McCoy, who had been part of the Ken Campbell Roadshow, also had certain strings to his bow, but was seen by most as a comedian, in the old-school sense. GNT stuck by his guns, and was ordered to do screen tests. Rather cunningly, he hired actors who just weren't quite right for the role to go up against McCoy. These screen tests, which appear on this DVD, also feature my favourite, Janet Fielding, in the role of Evil Empress of the Galaxy, or Mrs. Thatcher, depending on your reading of the politics of the time. She's awfully good. I will, in the next week or so, be reviewing the new Peter Davison, Tegan, Turlough and Nyssa audios, but that's for a future show. I intend returning to reviewing Big Finishes quite soon.
Coming soon from Big Finish Productions, Doctor Who, Cobwebs.
Yes, sterile atmosphere, gravity normal. Let's take a look outside, shall we?
I thought I saw something move near the access shaft.
I don't want to alarm you, but there's something in the ship with us.
Oh, great. Another gloomy corridor.
Warning. Threat mode activated.
What are you doing here? This is a top security facility.
I don't take orders from saboteurs.
You have to stop this. It's cold-blooded murder.
Everyone in this station is going to end up dead.
Whatever you do, Tegan, don't move.
Ow! Get them off me! Get them off me! Help! Help me!
Is that the best you can do? This is my life you're talking about. Turlough's life, Nyssa's life, your life.
I always knew you would return one day. That the four of you would come back to me. Tegan, Nyssa, Turlough, and the Doctor.
Oh, cobwebs, yes. Odd that.
Subscribers get more at bigfinish.com.
And so Sylvester McCoy gets the part, which is fine. Some new blood. At the time, I disliked Colin Baker's performance. I was a child after all, and didn't know better. McCoy I was more than willing to give a go to. This isn't true of other Doctor Who fans. There are some members of some podcast teams who even now refuse to believe in the existence of a seventh Doctor. And after watching this story, I can kind of see why. It's not, I'll put my hands up and say this straight off, great. But let's face it, with less than 30-odd stories remaining to be released onto DVD, the least popular are coming our way quite quickly. Of course, there's some hidden gems left, things like Dragonfire and Planet of the Spiders, but this is not one of them. It is, of course, McCoy's new regeneration story, so he spends much of the first episode still dressed in Colin Baker's costume. To finish the earlier Colin Baker story, he was offered the chance to come back and regenerate, and I believe his answer was, "To you, mate." Which is nice, because on this disc, you finally get, thanks to computer-generated technology, Colin Baker's face as part of his own regeneration. Because in this episode, what actually happened, and what you saw on screen, was Sylvester McCoy in a wig, going wibbly-wobbly, and then Sylvester McCoy without a wig, not so wibbly-wobbly. What brought about the death of the Sixth Doctor and his regeneration? Did he simply bang his head? Or is there something more sinister going on, or something even more, well, long-term story arcness? That's all been gone into in great depth in the Virgin and BBC novelisations. I'm sure if you want to track those down, you can. But here we're talking about this one story. The Rani is kidnapping geniuses through across space and time to do something that involves strange matter, while living on a planet that looks a lot like a quarry, populated by Wanda Bentham and several other people, mentioned at great length in Moth's Ate My Doctor Who Scarf. Yes, it's a bit of a higgledy-piggledy storyline, but some of the things that make this story stand out are definitely gone into on the disc as extras. The best thing in this storyline is the spinning bubble of death. Yes, I was ready for a reinvention of Doctor Who. I was ready for something cataclysmic to happen, and when Bonnie Langford runs onto this incredibly awful trap, this spinning ball which is ridiculously well animated and tremendously well made for its time. She gets scooped up, bounces around the quarry, large explosions happen, there's CGI, there's model shots, there's a mixture of everything thrown at this particular shot. It's glorious to behold, and even now would stand up if it was shown as part of the new series. And yet, she still manages to survive. Yes, this spinning ball of doom, of disappointment, still stays with me today. And how it was done? Well, that's one of the DVD extras. Yes, you can talk at great length about how Pip and Jane Baker have made yet another story that makes very little sense, has enough science in it to sound convincing until you look at it, but it's not great. Yes, it marks the beginning of McCoy's time. Yes, that was actually better than a lot of people will ever be willing to admit. And yes, Kate O'Mara's performance isn't that bad. It's actually quite funny. McCoy plays the spoons, and that put a lot of people's backs up, but let's face it, we can put that down to regeneration Malay. So yes, of course you'll buy it. It's a classic. Well, it's from the classic series at least. The extras are great. There are 3 DVD Easter eggs, all of which kind of have the feeling, apart from one, that they should be part of the very nice and very lengthy making of. There's some nice Blue Peter footage, and there's some great documentary on both the special effects, which I've talked about, and more importantly, the brand new computer-generated title sequence, although the new music sequence hasn't gone into whatsoever. There's also, well, the coming soon, and that's the new 4-disc box set. Well, 4-story box set. It's got about 10 discs in it. Talons of Wen-Chiang, the TV movie with Paul McGann, Caves of Androzani, and well, here's the trailer.
A stranger, a man whose thoughts were hidden, a man different from all of us. Describe him. Tall, with wide, pale eyes. Mouth of crackling jackanapes.
Who are you?
He's a doctor. Doctor.
You're the doctor?
I am the doctor! Who? Party on! Beware the eye of the dragon.
You don't happen to have an elephant gun, do you?
Why on earth do you want an elephant gun?
You're about to embark on a very dangerous mission.
Who calks? Son of death! Beasts of darkness! I have made them more savage than lions!
I do hope that girl Leela's in danger.
What have you done to her?
Nothing yet.
Take my advice. Don't.
At midnight tonight, this planet will be pulled inside out.
No way.
I am a time lord.
I thought you were a doctor.
I thought you were a doctor.
I am calling an ambulance to take you back to psychiatric, from which we've obviously escaped.
The Eye of Harmony is open. If I don't close it, get my TARDIS and the master off this planet will no longer exist.
Your sense of humor will be the death of you, Doctor. Probably quite soon.
Spectrum. The most valuable substance in the universe.
Your luck's run out, right?
You're dying. Full spectrum's toxin. There's no cure. You think bullets could stop me now?
Sorry, Barry. I can't make it. Business death. He's a doctor.
I am the doctor!
And so before I go, rather than do a Whostrology, here's a reminder of where I'll be this coming weekend. So if I see you there, say hello, and I'll give you a nice report when I get back. So until then, be seeing you. Hello, my name's Michael. You might know me from shows such as the Tin Dog Podcast, the Who Cast, and even Podshock. Yes, I'm speaking on behalf of the Doctor Who Podcast Alliance. You see, we're all off. Well, some of us are all off very soon, Sunday the 5th of September 2010, to be precise, between 10 AM and 5, to Hooverville 2, the world's only Doctor Who convention held in an engine shed. Yes, there are guest appearances by loads of people from the world of Doctor Who. Sophie Aldred, who we all know played Ace. Deborah Watling played Victoria. Dee Sadler played Flower Child. The Katie Manning. And Tristan Peatfield. Production designer on Amy's Choice. As well as meeting these wonderful people, you'll be able to meet us, because there's going to be a podcasting panel, and that'll include audience participation, so you'll need to wear your speaking trousers, apparently. So go on, join us at Hooverville 2, on Sunday the 5th of September 2010 at the Midland Railway, Butterley, Ripley, Derbyshire. Tickets for adults cost £25, children £10 under 5 years are free, obviously accompanied by a paying adult. Family tickets, that's 2 adults and 2 children, are only £60. For more information, contact www.hoovers.org.uk. Now that's spelt WHOOVERS, and you can use secure booking at www.midlandrailwaycentre.co.uk. So hopefully see you there and many other members of the Doctor Who Podcast Alliance. So until then, be seeing you. You have been listening to the Tin Dog Podcast. Doctor Who and its associated shows are all trademark of the BBC. No infringement is intended. Contact us at tin-dog@hotmail.co.uk.
So I've been catching up on my DVD box sets.
Oh yeah? The Wire?
No Blackadder. I'm further behind than you think. Which reminds me, I really must watch the young one before one of them dies.
Yeah.
I love Blackadder, but I have to say, I think the last joke in Blackadder Goes Forth really falls flat.
The last joke, so that's...
But when they're all going over the top into no man's land, and it looks like they've got shot, and then it cuts to this visual gag of a field of poppies, and the studio audience really aren't buying it at all.
Yeah, I'm not altogether sure that that's meant to be funny.
What, the as time goes by defence?
No. I think having made a lot of jokes, I mean really a lot of jokes, they felt that they needed to show some heart, you know. That, you know, everything's not about jokes, there are serious things.
Well, why would they do that in a comedy show? Isn't that a bit, here's 2 minutes in the hangover simulator to go with your beer?
Well, how would you have ended it? Some big Frank Spencer pratfall over barbed wire into some poo, so the credits roll and they're all covered in poo.
Poo?
Yeah.
What poo?
The poo in No Man's Land.
There wasn't any poo.
It looks like poo.
It was mud.
Mud poo. It's not my idea, David. I'm saying they shouldn't have done that. It's good that they didn't do that.
Where would the poo have come from?
Forget about the poo.
There was no poo.
What I'm saying is that comedy can't all just be talk of poo.
News to me.
Sometimes you have to show some depth.
Do you think we should do that?
Well...
Kill off Adric, roll the credits over silence.
It would certainly stop that bastard saying what the next programme is.
No, it wouldn't. Nothing would stop that bastard. And even if it stopped the bastard on BBC Two, it would never stop the bastard on Dave. He doesn't give a shit. As soon as he gets to the poppy bit of Blackadder Goes Forth, he's already split the screen and he's showing highlights of Frankie Boyle's Nan Pussy set in memory of the fallen.
I think we really need it, David. I think we desperately need to show maturity with something tacked on and mawkish. Like we care about MS.
MS?
Doesn't have to be MS. Just people and their relationships and their disgusting problems, like we give a shit or something.
That's the mission statement.